Anime of the year. And no, I'm not talking about what should have been free run. So let's get into it. Yokoso, my manga society. It's Orb time. Orb, on the movements of the earth. When I watched the first couple episodes, I knew for a fact that this would be a seinen classic. So originally, this manga was written by Uoto, and it comes in 4 omnibus English copies, or if you split them up, it would be 8 singles. He's actually the youngest mangaka to win a Tezuka Osamu award. So if you went back in time and told the younger me that I'd be so interested in historical fictions, I probably wouldn't believe it. But reading historical fictions piques my interest so much, and it really makes me want to learn, and it makes me so curious about how some of these scientific explorations actually came to be. And that's something that Orb, although it is fiction and it might not all be true, it's just so fascinating to read, and it really piques my curiosity and makes me want to look it up. So what's the premise of Orb? Orb is a story that takes place in 15th century Europe, where people widely believed that the Earth was the center of the universe. And so what happens to the people who defy this information, who try to explore scientific explorations disproving that geocentric model? Well, the Inquisitors, so Inquisitors are kind of like people who kind of seek out heretics and kind of punish them. And back in the day, there were many different ways of punishing them. They would torture them, they would burn them at the stake. So starting out, this story follows such a unique character, I would say. It's a 14-year-old boy who becomes so interested in studying astronomy. He loves looking at the stars, he loves studying the movements of the stars. And one day he comes into contact with this mysterious being called Hubert, who happens to be one of these heretics. And so this kind of begins the generational journey of disproving the geocentric model, proving the heliocentric model, and discovering different people's convictions in life. So I'm not gonna go exactly super deep into the characters or the story because I don't want to spoil anything, but just know that there's different main characters, different protagonists, but I'm not going to say how they come into play or how they interact because you'll have to watch the anime to know that. So I'm going to be talking about some of the themes that I really enjoyed, and if you love seinen, if you love these types of themes, then you should absolutely check out this manga or anime. So the first theme that I wanted to talk about is kind of knowledge is power. Human curiosity is such a special thing because no matter what people try to do to snuff out people's curiosities, it's almost impossible to stop people from finding out truths or different learnings. Their thirst for knowledge is just so great. And even if, like, let's say some people's curiosity gets snuffed, there's always going to be those types of people that are just always pursuing. And I feel like this anime just does an amazing job with showing what kind of sacrifices people are like really willing to make to find out the truths of this world and the secrets that other people are keeping from everyone. It really shows that violence it doesn't stop people from what their desires are, or it doesn't snuff out their convictions. And one thing that this historical fiction does so well is shows that one point that I brought up earlier, the point about this being a generational type of seinen, is that it shows that throughout history, knowledge is collected little by little through so many different people. And that's kind of like how our world kind of came to be to this point in time. It's just so fascinating how such small interactions could lead to such a huge impact. And this ties in with some of the different characters because not everyone in history is gonna have the same motivations or convictions, right? Each of these characters in this story have such a different reason for doing what they're doing, for finding out the truths of the heliocentric model. And it's just so fascinating to see how, one, it affects the story. I feel like each motivation affects the story in a different way. And two, how the different motivations kind of affects how each of the other characters think. I feel like each character has an impact on each other, and it greatly changes, I guess, the path of history. Some of the characters were so straight on what they wanted to do in life, but after interacting with some of these other characters, they totally veered off of the path that they were going towards. And that was just so interesting because that shows how crazy of an impact some people can have on others. And I feel like this goes back into like the knowledge is power thing, because once you gain knowledge, you're not the same person that you were before. It totally changes who you are as a person. And now I want to talk about the amazing impacts that the soundtrack and the opening and the endings had on this anime as well, because what's an anime without an amazing soundtrack, an amazing opening? So this opening was absolutely fantastic. If you have not heard it, I would go look it up right now. By Sakanaction, it's Kaijuu, it's amazing. And one other thing I loved about this anime was you don't usually see settings in 15th century Europe. I feel like this is such a unique period of time to tell a story. I'd love to see other manga and anime explore some of the other historical time periods. I know we have Vikings and the samurai periods with Vagabond, Vinland Saga, but let's explore some of the other historical periods in time. The pacing is absolutely fantastic. If you're looking for an anime that's done in 25 episodes, you're not going to be waiting for a second season. These 25 episodes were paced perfectly, and so I read the manga. 8 volumes was adapted so well into 25 episodes. I feel like no matter which one you picked, anime or manga, you're gonna enjoy the experience. One thing I would say is if you're picky on art styles, I would probably go with the anime. The anime just has a more polished art style. So if that's more your speed, I would definitely go with the anime. But if you're a manga enthusiast, I would say this is like a must collect manga for sure. So I believe we mentioned it in our last video, but from now on I'll be pulling some of the top rated comments from these videos and shouting them out at the beginning of the next video. So don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to join the Manga Society today. As always, this orb is cruel, but at least we have manga.